Get my glasses on. Okay. Good morning. My name is Doyle Dobbins, and I'm the worship associate for today. And on behalf of the First Unitarian Church of Wilmington, Delaware, I welcome you to our service, which is both in person, good to see you here, and all those who are with us online. We're glad that you are joining us as well. So, you are welcome here, regardless of who you are, where you're from, your religious journey, whom you love, and what you like to eat. And just be aware, whatever you like to eat, it's better with honey. We welcome you to our service today, and it's a unique service, a unique day in a way, because our theme is human rights and social justice and the work that needs to be done around the world. And the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, which we often refer to as UUSC or just the Service Committee, it is working throughout the world on our behalf. And we have two guests today from UUSC. First, Mary Katherine Morn, who's right behind me here. She's an ordained minister in the Unitarian Universalist Association. She's served many churches and served the association in a variety of capacities before becoming the president and CEO of UUSC. Her sermon title today is Power and Partnership for Change. And we also have Laura Randall. And I think, Laura, they wanted you to hit the gong harder. But, but you got our attention. That was good. You may remember Laura. She was with us 2 years ago as our guest speaker. And she's also a UUA minister and has served the association in a number of capacities before becoming the Associate Director of Congregational Development for UUSC. And if you want to find out really a lot more about them, go to their website, uusc.org, and look under staff or the team and read more about them there. And today is our wrap-up Sunday of Guest at Your Table. Hopefully you've been reading the e-news and the e-blasts and the stories of hope, and you've been thinking about, this sounds like important work. How can I support this work that's directed by UUSC throughout the world? And in addition, today is the beginning of Thanksgiving week. Now, what about that? So it should be a good week, and it's always good to think about and experience Thanksgiving and gratitude. And now just a few additional announcements. We want you to all follow our safety guidelines. Please wear your mask at all times while you're in the church, unless you have a speaking role. Practice social distancing. And above all, just use good common sense and be safe. We want everyone to be safe. And we want everyone, both here in the sanctuary and online, to join us at the end of the service for what we call a virtual cafe. And Mary Katherine will be willing to interact with everyone, answering questions. And Beverly Baxter will be moderating the virtual cafe. And so, with that information, I now urge you to focus yourself on fully participating in this service, beginning with carefully and quietly listening to the prelude music.
you. Good morning. Our call to worship for this morning comes from my friend and colleague, the Reverend Kathleen McTeague. It's entitled Common Ground. We breathe the common wind of earth, no matter where we live, who we love, what language we speak. We drink the common water of earth, no matter what our race, how long we live, the coverings we use to drape our forms. We walk the common paths of earth or roll along them, no matter our beliefs, how far we move from home, the gold we carry or its lack. May we live these truths, our hearts open to the holiness all around us, and our hands turned always toward the common good.
If you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light it now as we light the chalice here in the sanctuary. And may the chalice light today be a symbol or a symbolic way for us to honor all who help others. All who live by what we often call the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or another version of that is love your neighbor as yourself. Specifically, let's honor all the partners of UUSC around the world, those thousands and thousands of individuals who care for and help others. For a moment, let's wrap our minds around the expansiveness of this little flame. And in like manner, let us symbolically recognize the expansiveness of the light that comes to us or enters into us when we are caring for and helping others. So let's just say, let the flame and the light shine.
There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know. There are more waters rising, they will find their way to me. There are more waters rising, this I know, this I know. There are more waters rising, this I know.
There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. There are more fires burning, they will find their way to me. There are more fires burning, this I know, this I know. There are more fires burning, this I know. Mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. There are more mountains falling, they will find their way to me. There are more mountains falling, this I know, this I know. There are more mountains falling, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know, this I know. I will wade through the waters, this I know. I will wade through the waters when they find their way to me. We will wade through the waters, this I know, this this I know, we will wade through the waters, this I know.
I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know. I will walk through the fire when they find their way to me. I will walk through the fire, this I know, this I know. I will walk through the fire, this I know.
I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know.
I will rebuild the mountains when they find their way to me.
I will rebuild the mountains, this I know, this I know. I will rebuild the mountains, this I know.
Please join me in affirming our mission. First Unitarian Church of Wilmington is a beloved community that nourishes minds and spirits, fights injustice, and transforms the world through loving action.
Good morning, everyone. As I'm sure you know, UUSC's mission statement says that we advance human rights and social justice around the world, partnering with those who confront unjust power structures and mobilizing to challenge oppressive policies. We are an international human rights organization. But what are human rights? We say it so often that sometimes we forget what we mean when we say the words human rights. So we made a short video for people who are learning what it means to be a human rights defender and promoter, and hopefully that's all of us. And this video also mentions World Human Rights Day in December, and this year, UUSC is celebrating by having a virtual human rights leadership celebration on December 9th. December 9th, mark your calendars. It's going to be virtual, there's going to be music, special guests, and a lot of stories are going to be shared. And I hope all of you can join us. Invite your friends. Let's play the video.
Human rights is a phrase you might hear in school, in the news, or in other places. But what exactly are human rights? And why are they important? Human rights are the basic freedoms and protections every person is born with that cannot be taken away. They do not have to be earned, and every person has them, including you. No matter who they are, where they live, what religion they practice, or anything else about them. Some examples of human rights are the right to be safe from violence, the right to education, the right to be treated fairly at work, and the right to stay in another country if you are not safe in your own. The idea that people have rights has been around for a long time, but the understanding that human rights are something that all people everywhere have is actually quite recent. It wasn't until 1948 that many countries around the world got together and all agreed to one universal list of what standards and protections should be guaranteed for all people. They listed these in a document called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which they agreed to on December 10, 1948. That's why we celebrate December 10th as World Human Rights Day. Unfortunately, there continue to be many places in the world, including in the United States, where some people's human rights are still not being respected. This is why it is so important to know about human rights and to speak out if someone's rights are not being respected. There are lots of ways to speak out for human rights, including public protests, telling government leaders what we want by writing letters or calling on the phone, making art to help people learn about human rights, and much more. Thank you for taking the time to learn about human rights, and for doing your part to make sure that human rights are respected for everyone, everywhere.
For our meditation time this morning, I'd like for you to be a bit introspective, if you care to do so. And let's focus on thanksgiving and gratitude. First of all, let us be thankful and grateful for those who gave us life, for those who taught us, raised us, those who have helped us all along the way of our life journey. Let us be thankful and grateful for organizations with mission statements to do good things, like our church. We can be thankful and grateful for all the people who do good things through many of our programs, for instance, like Ilya, or like Emmanuel Dining Room, or all the other programs that we have here. We can be grateful and thankful. But we can also be grateful and thankful for an organization like the Service Committee, like UUSC, and grateful that it has partners all around the world, partners who are promoting and implementing human rights, civil rights, and social justice. We can be grateful for that. But we can also be personally grateful and thankful for opportunities to be engaged with those who may have experienced loss, those who are grieving, those with special needs, those for whom we can offer help, support, and caring assistance. So during a moment of silence, let your mind pursue the many avenues of thanksgiving and gratitude, and appreciate the feelings that come to you as you enter into that pursuit. And now I invite you to say the name or names of individuals for whom we need to recognize, who need our care and our help. If you are online and want to write them in the chat, please do so. Please speak the names. May all whose names were spoken and those unspoken be honored with support and find peace and healing today.
Before I go into the reading from Lauren Eisley, I want to offer you this poem written on Friday by Amanda Gorman, who you may remember as the youngest inaugural poet in American history when she shared her words with the nation this past January. So Ms. Gorman wrote this poem on Friday evening in light of the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse. Though we strobed, we came in peace. He was already at war. We have battled hard to be. Nothing can keep you safe. Silence least of all. Look alive, everyone. May such a prayer, a people, a peace, a promise, be ours. Be right and radiant and real. And this excerpt from The Unexpected Universe by Lauren Eisley. Perhaps far outward on the rim of space, a genuine star was similarly seized and flung. I could feel the movement in my body. It was like sewing, the sewing of life on an infinitely gigantic scale. Perhaps you have heard or read the parable of the starfish thrower before. The tale comes from Lauren Eisley, the mid-20th century scientist and philosopher, who recounts meeting a person on a beach after a storm which has washed thousands of starfish upon it. This person seeks out the living starfish and flings them back into the sea, where they may yet survive. After contemplating the seeming futility of such an endeavor in the face of a problem that is so large, it would be impossible to rescue all the starfish on the beach after all. Eisley recognizes the hope and defiance in taking such action. Eisley finishes his tale by writing, "I looked back across my shoulder to see the star thrower stoop and fling once more, and I never looked again. The task we had assumed was too immense for gazing. All around us roared the insatiable waters of death, but we, alone and small in that immensity, hurled back the living stars. I flung and flung again." Here ends the reading.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, Wilmington Unitarian Universalists. I'm so glad to see you and to be in this room with you. It is my first time preaching to more than 15, I think, people in a really small church outside of Boston in almost 2 years. And it's such a joy to be with you and to see you and to feel the energy we generate together when we gather for worship. I want to say a special thanks to Beverly and Doyle for all of their support, for their loyalty and enthusiasm. I'm guessing that their loyalty and enthusiasm to UUSC is not lost on you. I think you probably knew about that. I'm so grateful for all the ways that you have helped tell our story here in Wilmington and beyond as well. I hope there might be a few of you here today who have been learning about UUSC and are feeling like you also would like to become part of our UUSC family through financial support, through your support with our actions, and just getting to know us even better. I also want to offer thanks for my colleague Larry Pierce and the warm collegial welcome I have received. I'm so delighted that you are blessed with his ministry. I have learned so much personally. From Larry over the years, from my earliest days over 30 years ago as a brand new extension minister, and many, many times since then. I love that your congregation now has the benefit of Larry's wisdom and gifts, just as so many of us who are ministers and lay leaders have throughout the years. And thank you to Larry for the beautiful sermon that you gave on UUSC a few weeks ago. Laura and I were so grateful to hear it, and we'll be talking to you about getting it out there more widely. We really loved it. So excuse me, I'll be right back. I didn't know what was behind me. There's so much that's different, and I wish that you could see what I see. I always feel that, the privilege of the pulpit and being able to look into the congregation and see all who have gathered, but you've never looked quite like this. Spread out and masked. You have never had a harder working team of volunteers working to make worship possible. So I shout out to the wonderful folks who pull everything together. There is so much that is changing around us. It's hard to hold it all. And here in Wilmington, you've been in my thoughts and prayers as you have been facing additional change because of the departure of one minister and the arrival of another minister. But you've been through this before. You've gotten very good at this. So I know, and I just like all congregations, but you've been around for a long time. Virtually all of us are dealing with more change in our lives and in the world than truly we know how to manage. Our spiritual resources, patience, generosity of spirit, compassion, grace, these are needed now more than ever. And power. I'm saying power, friends. It's needed more than ever. And what I hope to leave you with this morning is the assurance that we have the power that is needed to make our world better. I would start with a bow to the ancestors, following on Doyle's prayer of gratitude. We remember and give thanks for them because we know we are because they were, but also because it's important for us to remember their stories and the ways they affected change in the world and in our lives. I find tremendous strength and hope in history, in the inevitability of change, in the power of human community to provide a broader vision through time and across space. Thank you for this privilege of gathering in worship with you in this hour that invites us to remember. I recently visited another place that inspired memory, about an hour outside of Boston, where I live, Purgatory Chasm State Park. Somebody's been there? Maybe? This park is on land cherished and traditionally protected by Nipmuc peoples, a tribe of 600 living in Massachusetts. So can you picture, I tried to find a picture that offered some perspective of the half-mile-long chasm and how treacherous a hike it is. Particularly, I hope you can see the hiker in the red shirt that offers perspective. A slow pace, I can tell you, I can attest, is needed to navigate the incredible scale and danger of the chasm, the stones large and small that jut beneath and loom above the hikers. Stone is considered a symbol of patience and the steady pace of change, right? Boulders that are worn smooth by the elements, and gigantic canyons carved by streams. The long view perspective of time revealed in stone reflects the steady, slow evolution of things. The stones at Purgatory Chasm, though, offer a different meaning. That particular place, the immense breach of the earth, was created in an instant. A moment of immediate, dramatic, disruptive, violent change. Scientists believe the chasm was formed by the sudden release of glacial meltwater 14,000 years ago. Change, as we are learning, sometimes happens like that. Stone is sometimes shaped by sheer and instant power. Right now, these days, I think that image of change is more resonant than the slow, steady force of a small stream carving out a canyon, though both, of course, hold important truths. In his reflection on saving the starfish along the ocean shore, Loren Eisley writes, "All about us roared the insatiable waters of death." This line, for me, brings to mind the creatures and the habitat lost in that instant 14,000 years ago. Think of it, the water roaring from above, melted who knows how much earlier, working for probably a long time to find its escape, but forming the landscape in an instant. All about us roar the insatiable waters of death. Loren Eisley saw this from the perspective of the starfish's life and his own. We can see it in the raging of more frequent storms, the rising waters, but also the indifference of a virus and the intimate violence of racism. We're at a rare moment in history when so much is revealed by the rapid change and disruption of this moment. What's revealed, of course, is not anything new. What's revealed is what too many of us have managed not to see. What is revealed is what we understood when we heard the words of Dr. King, who reminded us that what affects one affects all. Many of us still manage to be surprised that our judicial system upholds white supremacy, protecting it at any cost, even in the face of violent racism. By this point, fewer of us are surprised by the news of another acquittal, but speaking for myself, I am still learning the extent to which the stranglehold of white supremacy controls our civil systems and the devastating ways this impacts so many. It's not that I turn away and that causes me not to see, but my privilege gives me cover so I don't always see what is right in front of me. That's how privilege works. But there's another significant challenge many of us face, I believe, and that is that so many of us underestimate our power. We practice what some have called sophisticated resignation. Oh, well, what can we do? And our cynicism is just what empires and tyrants are counting on. But the shaking of so many foundations around us has forced us to see more vividly than ever what many of us do not ordinarily see: horrific inequality, inequity, systems designed precisely to maintain the castes among us, the complicity of silence, and the seductive comfort of our perceived powerlessness, our practiced powerlessness. These times are urgently calling on us to remember and use our power. One thing I love about UUSC's mission is that it includes an affirmation of the dignity and power of all people. For Unitarian Universalists, repeating the beautiful words of our first principle so often, it's easy to read over that one small but significant difference. We're not denying inherent worth when we use this statement, but the addition of power for us is significant. At UUSC, we affirm the dignity and power of all people, the power of compassion that demands our hands and minds and hearts be engaged in fulfilling the promise of human dignity and worth, the power of faithful imagination, the refusal to give in to that cynicism which is a tool of oppression. These times are urgently calling on us to remember and use our power. I know this is hard, and probably harder these days than ever before. These days, I think many of us are feeling small. For myself, I know the roar gets inside my head, and I feel so alone and afraid, and yes, powerless. Now I'm going to ask you to shake that off. Shake that off. I'm not asking us to deny those feelings, but I am hoping that we can see and hold something more. We've come here, after all, today because we know that religious community will hold us when we feel small and alone. Community will call us back to the power we each carry, that we recognize and see in each other, that is called out from us when we gather. We show up, we are together today because we believe that ministry, our shared ministry, will comfort us and confront us, will call us to use our power. It has happened time and again within this community. Not just the way you show up for each other within the congregation, but in the larger community and world as well. Your work with Emmanuel Dining Room, your work for climate justice. Did anyone see the solar panels when you came in, all set? I didn't see them. I need to take a tour outside. And I checked out your website and got to hear Maisie Donahue, is it? At her climate strike speech. Have you all heard her? What a powerful witness to the larger community from this community of faith. You have been part of movements that have brought about actual change. I want to take a moment and invite you to call out the names of people from among this community who have reminded you of your power. People who have been a prophetic witness to the power we have to create change in the world. I'm going to ask you to type on the YouTube chat the names of people who have called out this power, who have reminded you. And in the room, would you call out the names of some of those who have reminded you of your power? Thank you. Friends, we have what we need to create a better world. We have what we need to enact courageous change. And I'm not speaking metaphorically or theoretically. I'm not talking about what I hope to be true. I'm talking about the power I have witnessed through many years as a parish minister, and I have never known about the power we have to enact courageous change as intimately as I have these last years, as I have been privileged to be part of UUSC's work in the world. I know that you have, over the last few weeks, been hearing about the particulars of our work, about our migrant justice work, our climate justice work, our disaster justice work. And I want to thank everyone who has contributed to telling UUSC's story here in Wilmington. So for now, what I would like to do is just briefly emphasize the way our Unitarian Universalist principles affect the way we do our work. In all that we do at UUSC, we look to grassroots leaders for direction and solutions. Almost all of our partner organizations are led by women and people of color. Durable social change is possible when the people whose lives are affected are driving the change. While some of the funding we provide ensures material support in times of crisis, our grants and partnerships are all designed for systemic change. As our mission says, dismantling systems that oppress people. We support those who are creating life-saving systems that ensure all can survive and thrive. I am deeply inspired every day by the fierce power of the grassroots partners who are the heart of UUSC's mission. And their stories and their witness to what is possible in the world is what reminds me every day that I cannot rest in the seductive comfort of powerlessness, and I must recognize and use my own power as well. I want to close with a brief story from one of our partners, Asylum Access in Mexico, and it's a story about Mario, who was born in El Salvador when he was 15. He started his own business selling hot dogs in the street. After he became successful, selling hundreds of hot dogs a day, the gangs took note and demanded money, threatening violence. Mario couldn't make a living with the extortion, and he wouldn't have survived had he not paid them. So Mario left El Salvador with his mother, and in Mexico, they received support from Asylum Access Mexico, one of our partners there. He and his mother have a small place to live. They've managed to obtain refugee status, and Mario has a job. Now, Asylum Access is working to help Mario's little sister get her papers so that she can join her mother and brother in Mexico. I invite you to see the full story of Mario's journey online. Asylum Access Mexico created a video called Hot Dogs on a Tricycle. I think you'll remember that, and you can Google it and see this beautiful story for yourself. Only a few years after Asylum Access was founded in Mexico, UUSC became an early partner and funder. In the last 7 years, they have expanded across Mexico and are serving thousands and thousands of immigrants. They also work for change in immigration systems in Mexico and in their outlets throughout the world. UUSC, as you know, is a small organization. The way we build and grow impact is by partnering with small, creative, scrappy organizations, often just starting, who are unable to find funding from more mainstream groups. There are literally hundreds more stories like Mario's out there, and you can find many of them on our website at uusc.org. There you can meet some of our partners, learn more about our advocacy work, and discover ways that you can act in solidarity with UUSC and with our partners. I hope that every UUSC story you hear inspires you and reminds you of your own dignity and power. Thank you for your support. It is an investment in powerful, transformative change. These times, my friends, are urgently calling on us to remember and to use our power. We have what we need to create a better world. May it be so. Amen.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives.
UUSC is an 80-year-old international human rights organization grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
UUSC partners with over 50 locally led grassroots organizations around the world to advance human rights.
We work with communities affected by natural disasters and humanitarian crises, including ethnic minorities facing a campaign of genocide in Burma.
We partner with First Indigenous peoples to advance their right to self-determination in systematically addressing the loss of their homes, their livelihoods, and their cultures due to the impacts of climate change.
And we support the right to safety, dignity, and justice for Central Americans in Central America, along the migration route, and in the United States.
We can only do this work because of the support of individuals and congregations like you. Please join us.
Well, in this stewardship moment, I think we've received a pretty clear message. And congregational support for UUSC is very important. And I will add my voice to that clear message. And thank you, sister. I don't often say amen, but I think I'll say amen to that sermon. That was good. So the message is, we need to stretch. We need to stretch to give a little bit more than we might ordinarily give. If we want to be part of this organization or other organizations, we often need to stretch and think, well, can I do a bit more? And generally the answer is, yes, I can. And let's think of it in terms of, at least this is the way I think of it. If I were in dire circumstances and I was looking for people to help me out, I would be very grateful if they stretched a little bit to do a little bit more. And I think it's fair to say that many of our UUSC partners are in dire circumstances for all kinds of reasons, and they need our support. So let me quickly just remind you, you can give to UUSC anytime online. And you can also give by using the little guest at your table, you know, these little boxes. Well, you received an envelope in recent weeks, and it says guest at your table right on it. If you write a check and send it off, it will go directly to UUSC. So that's a good way to give, stretch a little bit. And if you can give $150 or more, it qualifies for a match, and that doubles the value. But be aware, all gifts are important, whether they're big or small. So don't be shy. Don't be shy about supporting UUSC. And in like turn, don't be shy about supporting the work of this congregation. If we take a look at the slide, you can see there very quickly the ways that you can give. There's a box at the back of the sanctuary if you want to leave a gift today. But you can always write a check and mail it to the church. You can go online to the church website and donate online if that's your preference. Or you can use the new app to make a donation. So we want to encourage you, both for UUSC and the church, to be generous. Be as generous as you can. And so now let's join together in offering our dedication for our gifts to both UUSC and the church, to the work of this congregation, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives, and these are our offerings.
Come, ye thankful people, come, raise a song of harvest home. Fruit and crops are gathered in, safe before the storms begin. God our Maker will provide for our needs to be supplied. Come to God's own temple, come, raise a song of harvest home. All the world is but a field, given for our fruitful yield. Wheat and tares together sown, here for joy or sorrow grown. First the blade and then the ear, then the full corn shall appear. God of harvest, grant that we wholesome grain and purity.
We breathe the common winds of the earth, and yet some struggle for breath at the hands of hatred. We drink the common water of the earth, and yet for some, the waters of earth threaten their homes and their lives, and for some, there is not a drop to drink. We walk the common paths of the earth, and yet some are imprisoned for being far from home. Our liberation is bound together. May we live each day in a way that honors our common humanity and builds the common good.
As we extinguish our chalice today, let's be thankful and let's be grateful. First of all, let's be thankful and grateful that we could be here. We could be together, both in person and online. And I want to say thanks to Mary Catherine and to Laura for being with us today. And, you know, it's always good to be thankful and grateful for common things like food and water and life itself. And let's be thankful that we can be on our way with compassion and gratitude. So I would say, so be it. Have a good week. But also, I invite you to remain, if you possibly can. After the prelude, we will have our virtual cafe, and with Mary Catherine, and Beverly will be moderating that part of the program. We hope you can stay and participate. Thank you.